It is 7 p.m. and we will call this meeting to order. This is the only meeting of the year that I actually get to call to order because we will be doing officer elections today. So I'm excited. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will move on to the election of officers with a nomination for president. I would like to nominate Trustee Shari for the position of school board president. Do I have a second for the nomination of president for Patty Schuller-Barker? A second. Thank you. We have a second from Trustee Meadow. And let's take a roll call vote. Trustee Meadow? Trustee Greshak?
Yeah.
Trustee Harrison?
Yes.
Trustee Moore?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Hill?
Yes.
Trustee Schuller-Barker? With an unanimous vote, we have our president, Trustee Schuller-Barker, and I will hand it over to you for the rest of the meeting.
I can tell you the story. I am majorly moved. It's an honor beyond. And I hope that I do and am what you want me to do and what you want me to be. I want to represent all of you. And I'm overwhelmed. I thank you. And this, next to being a mom and a wife, is probably the most important thing in my life, for sure. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta say, I'm a bubbly grandma, so I better throw that in there for Mac and Mia. But this is very near and dear to my heart. The children of KPS, I consider almost my own. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Let's go to Vice President. Do I have any nominations for Vice President?
I would like to nominate Trustee Harrison.
And the chair will second that. All right, the board. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Moore. Yes. Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Bill.
Yes.
Trustee Harrison.
Yes.
Trustee Grisham.
Yes.
Trustee Leah.
Yes.
So our new vice president is trustee, our continuing vice president is trustee Deanna Harrison. Congratulations. Now we're going to secretary. Are there any nominations for secretary?
I will nominate Jenny Hill.
Not many nominations come with bells, but I guess
I'll second.
maybe that's a message from the universe or something. I'm not sure. Is there a second for that nomination? Trustee Grishak seconds it. So Trustee Hill has been nominated for secretary. Any other nominations? We'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Majyck.
Yes.
Trustee Grishak. Trustee Harrison.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Hill.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations to Jenny Hill, our trustee, who is a continuing recording secretary. So now we go to treasurer. Are there any nominations for treasurer?
I would like to nominate Trustee Greshak.
Are there any seconds for that nomination?
Second.
There is a nomination of trustee Grishak for treasurer and a second by trustee Jackson. Any more nominations? Roll call vote. Trustee Majyck.
Yes.
Trustee Grishak.
Yes.
Trustee Harrison.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Hill.
Yes.
So now we have trustee Grishak continuing as treasurer. Thank you very much. And so now I need a motion to accept the agenda, please.
Madam President.
Yes.
I'd like to make a change to the agenda.
Sure.
I'd like to add an action item to the agenda. I'd like to discuss the need for a school climate measurement survey. And I would like to recommend that we discuss this under the other business section of the agenda.
All right, so there's been an amendment to the agenda, and it is to discussing conducting a school climate survey. All right, and so the agenda now has been amended. So we will now, is there any other adjustments to the agenda? All right, so at the agenda now stands with the new addition under other business. Is that right, Mr. Harrison? Okay, and so do I have a motion to accept this agenda?
So moved.
In the second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Harrison and a second by trustee Hill to accept the agenda as it stands with the amendment. Let's just do a little call again. Is there, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now trustee Hill will take attendance.
All trustees are present and Dr. Chowdhury is also present.
Thank you. And now there's no board record, so committee reports and school reports. And that's the only committee that I know that have met was evaluation.
The evaluation committee met on January 11th, which was 2 days ago on Tuesday. The committee chair, that's me, that's why I'm giving the report, Jenny Hill. The other trustees on the committee, Patty Schauer-Barber and Tiana Harrison, and Superintendent Chowdhury is also present. The purpose of the Board of Education's evaluation committee is to dig deeper into and discuss effectiveness of certain district initiatives. The evaluation committee also leads the evaluation of the superintendent. There are roles. The district administrator provides the information needed, which includes data, research, and updates, and board members provide questions and provide advocacy on the board floor. I think I'm too short. All right, so we had several topics on the agenda, and the first one we discussed was school climate and culture. This is part of the report focused on the district student support. So we had 12 new initiatives. Some of them are new and some of them are reboots, and we're very proud of them. I'm just going to read them all down. There's school-based partnerships with GRIP in place to support conflict resolution and restorative practices in schools. We also have the child study team at both the high schools, target students with behavioral needs, and create behavioral intervention plans. They're made up of members from the school to make sure the outcomes for the individual child. So it's tailored to the student. So it's with the social worker, the student's teachers, maybe the principal, people that are around this child so they understand the child. It very much sounds like a care plan. When I worked at the hospital, so we had, well, that's I digress, but that's a whole other story. So I'll talk about that later. There's also a CIS success coach at each school that targets students with intensive supports, focused on SEL, in addition to, and there's also academic support. We've always partnered with community and schools, so that's very nice. There's an increase, this is exciting and new. We have 7 new counselors. It's through the Stryker grant for secondary students. So the 7 new counselors are at our 7 secondary buildings. So there are 4 middle schools and our 3 high schools. We also have clinical social worker full-time at each of the high schools, all 3 of them, to support students with trauma and to help reduce violent behaviors. We have home support specialists at Kalamazoo Central that target students with supports and links home and outside services to provide wraparound support for students. And that's to support, that's to support with community sports, to help supports, to help bring in community and to hook the students up with supports that are available out there that they may not know about. We have a Crisis Prevention Institute training for staff, initial CPI, that are involved with conflict de-escalation. We have after-school mentoring. We have a violence management program with schools, community leaders, townships, city police, parents, and students to target the increased violent or illegal behaviors. We have a handle, the partnership with the police who are involved or their household is to involve police activity out of school time. The link provides school-based supports for students after incidents involving the police out of school. That's a new program. There's another community and schools program that targets schools' needs with wraparound supports and extensive mentoring programs. That was in place, but we've made new targets. And number 12, we have an intervention for students who are repeat violent offenders and mandated counseling before they return to KPS. Either KPS provides the counseling or they can go to their own counseling. And we have a report later on this evening from Dr. Chowdhury about MTSS, and that's what we're going to hear more about from her. So additional data on these programs will be provided by Dr. Chowdhury when it becomes available, and that will be sent to the evaluation committee in that report out. So I know some of these programs are new and some of them are reboots, and I know that we all like measurements because that's how we linear humans measure progress, but we don't have any data now. But I want to throw in that we had a nice conversation about, this is our first year in person, and then I just personally feeling very optimistic about carrying out these reports and taking them apart in the meeting, because you can't measure a new program because it just started, but you can measure it by buy-in, by the amount of enthusiasm people have who are involved in launching the program and running the program. And this is the professionals that are in schools, the teachers, the administrators who have welcomed these programs. They've designed them, they've made improvements on them, and they're doing it with enthusiasm and willingness, because I think it speaks volumes for our community and our school community and our commitment to do what's best for our students. That was the first subject we talked about. Then we discussed at our evaluation meeting that it's our 6-month formal update for the superintendent evaluation. We discussed what it will look like and how it will be presented and when it will be presented. And then we discussed, the last subject we discussed was the evaluation committee update on board projects, or the evaluation committee's project, which is working on board procedures. And that's one of the things we'll talk about at board advance, which will be held later, I think later in February. Thank you for listening to that lengthy report from the evaluation committee.
I would like to commend the lengthy reports from the committees really help to educate the community on the work that the board does, that it's not just every other Thursday night. So thank you so much for that. Okay, the only other thing that is to report is this Friday there will be a meeting of the board for CIS. And then we will have subsequent committee reports at the next board meeting. Correspondence. That again is trustee Gill.
I think I caught my breath through the mask here. So the only correspondence we received was through the email. You can also fax things, you can hand deliver things. Sometimes trustees will get personal phone calls, which is nice, but they don't get reported out because you can only talk to one trustee at a time. So the first one came through on 12/2 from Kelly Alvarez. I was about public participation in school safety, and I answered her. Another one also came through on 12/2 from Miss Annie Went. It was comments about the board meeting. She submitted comments. Also on 12/2, Stephanie and Lee Mello, they were requesting metal detectors in the school. We had several emails concerning Parkwood Upjohn, and they came through on 12/13, and they were from Lindsay Paulson, Elizabeth Finch, Kate King, Nora Sneed, Lisa Brent, stop there, Nora Sneed, and Matt Ray. Then on 12/13, we received an email from Lisa Brenner regarding district leadership, and I answered all of those. And Dr. Chowdhury answered the one to Lisa Brenner and Laura Sneed. Page 2. From more emails about Parkwood Upjohn came in on the 14th from Sarah Helms, on the 16th from Ivonia Swan. And then we had an email from Andrea Hooker about allegations and bullying. We had an email from Rosalie Burton about superintendent communication. Sadie Ruby about superintendent absentee. Chad Evans KPS in the start to 2020. Shari Weber about Michigan MDHHS, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services COVID guidance. On 1/7, Coral Damon Brown of Learning Should Remain in Person. Carolyn Coulter on 1/10 of the staffing shortage. And Shari Weber on 1/10 about COVID variant impact. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. It's an hour ago that you said consent calendar is applied. It's an applied motion, and all those that agree with it will say aye. The items on the consent calendar are the December 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes, purchase requests 22, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Personnel changes and board member expense summary report for Vice President Tiana Harrison and for myself, board member expense summary report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the consent calendar items pass. And now this portion of the meeting, as we always do, I should explain, this is a template. Our agenda is a template we use every meeting. It doesn't vary. It is pretty standard. It's pretty concrete, and various items change under the headings. So after the consent calendar always comes the reports and recommendations, and that is always Dr. Rajaduri's part.
Thank you, President Schiller-Barber. January is School Board Recognition Month. In a time of extreme challenges for public education, our school board members persevered, remained focused on our children, and made the hard decisions that had to be made to provide the best possible education for our students. Even though we're making a special effort tonight to show appreciation for our school board members, we recognize their contributions reflect a year-round effort on their part. No matter what challenges lie ahead for our district, I'm confident our school board members will continue to govern to improve student achievement and expand opportunity. Our trustees truly live up to our motto of every child, every opportunity, every. Since there have been questions about our COVID prevention and mitigation strategies, I will briefly review the plan we've had in place all school year and inform you of a few additional mitigation measures recently added. Here are some recently published quotes. The first on the left is from CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky. He said in a news release, "We now recommend that all adolescents aged 12 to 17 years should receive a booster shot 5 months after their primary series. This booster dose will provide optimized protection against COVID-19 and the Omicron variant. I encourage all parents to keep their children up to date with CDC's COVID-19 vaccine recommendation." President Biden recently said, "We know a lot more today than we did back in March 2020. For example, last year we thought that the only way to keep children safe was to close our schools. Today, we don't have to shut down schools because of a case of COVID-19. We can keep our schools open, and that's exactly what we should be doing." A World Health Organization official was quoted as saying, "More evidence is emerging that the Omicron coronavirus variant is affecting the upper respiratory tract, causing milder symptoms than previous variants." And finally, Dr. Poland from the Mayo Clinic said, "I will tell you the secret to protecting yourself from Omicron, and it's really pretty easy. It's the advice we have consistently given here at Mayo Clinic and true at any medical center. Wear a mask when you're indoors, be immunized, and be boosted." Kalamazoo Public Schools has continued to lead with health and safety in mind in an effort to minimize interruptions to in-person learning experiences that have proven so valuable to our students. Although a very small handful of Michigan school districts have chosen to revert to remote learning, our district's decision to remain in person is based on the fact that our layered mitigation strategies have successfully resulted in extremely low school-based transmission. The district continues to collaborate with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, the Michigan Department of Education, and the Kalamazoo County Health and Community Services Department to monitor recommendations from healthcare experts and the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The layered COVID-19 mitigation strategies we've had in place all school year provide the greatest level of protection for all variants, including Omicron. Before this school year, it was a different story. Our adults only became eligible for vaccines early in 2021 and students much later in the year. We kept our schools virtual last year since we were not able to implement the first layer of defense as indicated in this for vaccination. However, now that we're able to implement these strategies in our schools, first and foremost being access to vaccines for all school-age children, we are seeing very low in-school spread. And as a result, we are committed to keeping our schools open for the academic and social emotional well-being of our students. First and foremost, it is important that we do our part to keep healthy, which includes self-checks at home every day. Students and staff who are experiencing the following symptoms are required to stay at home: cough, temperature of over 100.4 degrees, chills, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, new loss of taste or smell, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, sore throat, nasal congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting or diarrhea. If an unvaccinated child is exposed at home, they must quarantine before returning to school. I will review the updated school-based exposure, isolation, and quarantine guidelines shortly. As a reminder, as long as you are vaccinated and asymptomatic, you can go to school and continue to monitor your symptoms for 10 days. KPS has required masks in our facility since the beginning of the school year, regardless of vaccination status. For anyone who does not have a mask, the district provides one. KPS has hosted a number of vaccination clinics and will continue to partner with healthcare agencies to provide access to vaccines. We collaborated with Optimed to hold a vaccine clinic at Hillside Middle School on Saturday, January 9th, which was last Saturday. They were able to provide a very high number of immunizations, with 98% of them given to the 5 to 15-year-old population. A second clinic will be held at Hillside on Saturday, January 29th. The slots are filling up quickly for the second Hillside clinic. Because of that, we've added a third clinic to be held on Saturday, February 19th at Millwood Middle School. Registration for Millwood will be open on January 31st. Optimed has been a great partner and is willing to extend the times of either clinics to allow for more people to be vaccinated if the slots fill up. At the clinic, Optimed can provide flu shots as well as first or second shots and the boosters for adults and children. As you're aware, last week, the Food and Drug Administration approved the Pfizer booster shot for children ages 12 to 15. Someone who is fully vaccinated and asymptomatic does not need to quarantine if exposed to COVID-19. That allows employees to stay at work and students to remain in school. The CDC defines fully vaccinated as someone who has had both vaccines and the booster if the second vaccine was more than 6 months ago. KPS received a grant from the United Way of Battle Creek and Kalamazoo region to participate in the Vaccinate the Great Lakes State campaign. Any KPS employee, student, or family member who gets fully vaccinated between the dates of December 10th and February 1st will have a chance to get one of 70 $50 Visa gift cards. Proof of vaccination between those dates must be submitted to Judy Moran at moranjl@kalamazoopublicschools.net by February 4th. There are 70 gift cards available on a first-come, first-served basis. Anyone needing assistance getting to a vaccine site can contact 269-345-1516, extension 111. In addition to getting support with transportation, there is also assistance available in making an appointment or even accompanying someone to an appointment. KPS is committed to removing all barriers in getting our students and staff vaccinated and boosted. Please take advantage of these opportunities as you see fit. In a letter to staff and families dated January 3rd, I announced several new mitigation measures. Tomorrow, another letter will go out about the updated quarantine and isolation guidelines just announced by MDHHS a couple of days ago. In a joint letter from the Director of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the State Superintendent of Education, schools were advised against large gatherings, which includes events with people from multiple households. For the month of January, KPS will not hold any events with more than 100 people that include attendees outside of KPS staff or students. This will allow for social distancing at these events. Schools have or will be communicating about sporting events, fine arts program, and other scheduled programs. This month, some events may be postponed or held remotely, while others will continue with limited capacity. The capacity limit on events will be revisited for February. Kalamazoo County Health Department also strongly supports this recommendation to limit gatherings. In collaboration with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Kalamazoo County Health and Community Services Department, KPS is participating in a pilot program called Test to Stay. This program is being implemented in response to requests by parents who have been burdened by quarantine requirements, as well as the district's desire to keep students in school when possible. The Test to Stay pilot program allows unvaccinated students and adults to receive antigen tests at schools after a school-based exposure. Remember, I stated earlier that fully vaccinated staff and students who are asymptomatic do not need to quarantine or test. Students will need to have a signed permission slip to participate in the Test to Stay program. If a student has a school-based exposure, they can receive an antigen test as soon as they arrive at school. They can continue to stay at school as long as the test is negative. We have received a limited supply of antigen tests to launch the pilot program, and additional tests were ordered months ago. Due to the national supply chain issues with testing kits, we may not be able to implement this program with fidelity. The district has also applied for rapid home tests through the MDHHS My Backpack Home Test program. Once received, 3 antigen tests will be made available on a voluntary basis to KPS families who would like to have a COVID-19 test kit at home. This photograph is what these tests look like. This is my negative COVID test from my training on how to use these kits. They are very easy to use. The CDC announced new quarantine and isolation guidelines on December 27th for the general population. We did not immediately adopt their new guidelines. Instead, we waited for the state of Michigan and Kalamazoo County to provide guidance for schools. Just this Tuesday, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services issued their new school quarantine guidance. This provides options based on vaccination status. I'll walk you through this chart, which we are sending to all employees and families tomorrow. The first thing to note on the left in the school quarantine guidance is for students or staff exposed to COVID in a school setting, but do not have symptoms. Anyone exposed in another setting or anyone experiencing symptoms should not attend school or work. Moving to the right, if you're up to date on vaccines, there is no need to quarantine if you do not have symptoms. Someone exposed should monitor for symptoms and wear a mask for 10 days. In our case, we always wear a mask. For anyone not up to date on vaccines, there are options. First, you can home quarantine for days 1 through 5. Day 0 is the date of the last close contact with a COVID-19 positive student, teacher, or staff. During quarantine, you should test on day 5. If your test is negative, you can return to school on day 6. The second option is to participate in the Test to Stay program, where you can antigen test at school every other day through day 6 following the school exposure. These quarantine guidelines are only for someone who is asymptomatic and exposed in a school-based setting. Students and staff who test positive for COVID-19 should not attend school and should isolate at home for 5 full days after symptom onset or 5 days after the positive test. They may return on day 6 if they have no symptoms. We notified families during the second week of school about the possibility of rolling bus cancellations due to a shortage of drivers. This problem is not unique to Kalamazoo Public Schools, and the hasn't changed. Once in a while, we feel like we are rounding the corner, but there is no way to be sure. The only solution is more drivers. Believe me, everyone in KPS wishes we did not have to cancel any routes. Our drivers do an outstanding job covering over 100 routes and have doubled up their shifts to help out. We are truly grateful to them. We've had licensed mechanics and office staff with the proper licensing and training willing to drive as much as they can. This has caused issues around their work not getting done at the optimal level. It's a no-win situation. Staffing shortages are being seen in every industry across our country. We appreciate parents and others who have stepped up to offer rides to students in need. We notify families affected by the route cancellations by 6 p.m. the evening before. In other words, families get daily communication regarding cancellations. We also spread the word on the KPS website and social media pages, as well as sending the list of cancellations. Until we have more drivers available, unfortunately, these cancellations will continue. Please help us spread the word and encourage anyone you know who might be able to help us by driving a school bus to contact our transportation department at 269-337-0500 or visit in person at 1800. We will take care of all licensing fees. We offer competitive bonuses, multiple shifts for those who may want those. Our transportation department recently received a certificate of excellence from the Michigan State Police for achieving a 100% pass rate for the school bus inspections for the 2020-2021. It's a wonderful achievement, and I salute our executive supervisor, Terry Almond, and our outstanding mechanic. On December 6th, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer paid a visit to Linden Grove Middle School and was very impressed with our safety protocols and academic program. Students and staff were thrilled to meet her, to even find the internationally recognized robotics team robot. I was recently notified by the Michigan Department of Education that Kalamazoo Public Schools is being recognized for our work with MTSS, or multi-tiered system of supports, the model used to support our students with both academics and social emotional needs. As a refresher, KPS uses a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS framework of instruction, assessment, and intervention designed to meet the diverse academic and behavioral health needs of all learners. As shown in this graphic, MTSS is comprised of 3 tiers. Tier 1 is high quality core academic and behavioral instruction that meets the needs of most learners. Tier 2 is targeted supplemental and academic and behavioral support. Tier 2 interventions that are administered in smaller groups and are targeted for students in specific groups. Tier 3 is intensive individualized academic and behavioral intervention. The Tier 3 interventions are delivered one-on-one. For example, if an elementary student is having trouble meeting grade level reading standards, the teacher would then move that student into a Tier 2 instruction. At this tier, the student would engage in additional small group instruction with targeted intervention in addition to core curriculum. These interventions are also documented in the student improvement plan. After implementing Tier 2 interventions for at least 6 weeks, the student will be reevaluated to see if the interventions are working. If the student is responding positively to the intervention, they will continue with Tier 2 support. If the interventions are not helping the student show growth, then the teacher would refer the student to the school child study team. This team of professionals would create a Tier 3 individualized plan to best support the student with more specific needs. These supports and interventions will be implemented with the child in a one-on-one setting. There has been quite a bit of concern about student behavior and altercations happening in our high school. We are very concerned. We know and understand that students have only been back to face-to-face schooling for a little over 4 months after being out of school for 18 months. They are facing trauma related to COVID-19 and face considerable anxiety and sadness due to the isolation they experienced last school year. They're also relearning how to do school. To support them in this transition, KPS has instituted 12 interventions that have gone into effect this school year. These are research-based interventions. But as with all interventions that are implemented for the first time, it takes time for fidelity of implementation, measurement of implementation, collection of data, etc. We are proud that we are able to offer these interventions and that our school personnel are eager to find solutions. We will have baseline data on how these interventions are doing at the end of the year. Changing school climate and culture is a multi-year process. And the disruptions we're facing in our schools is a microcosm of the increased violence we're experiencing out in our community. As we have said before, the district cannot do it alone. We need all hands on deck to ensure that there is safety and support both inside and outside of the school setting. The 12 interventions are: 1, school-based partnership with Griffin Place to support conflict resolution and restorative practices in school. 2, child study teams that students with behavior needs, for students with behavior needs and create behavior intervention plans. 3, CIS success coach at each school that targets students with intensive social support. 4, increased counseling through the Spiker Johnson grant for secondary students. 5, full-time clinical social worker at each high school to support students with trauma. 6, home support specialist at Kalamazoo Central to link students with wraparound supports in the community. 7, crisis prevention institute training for all staff who are involved in conflict de-escalation. 8, after-school mentoring. 9, violence intervention meeting with school community leaders, township and city police, parents and students to target increased violence or illegal behavior. 10, handle with care partnership with the police for students or their household involved in police activity outside of school. This provides school-based supports for students after incidents involving the police outside of school. 11, CIS program that target at-risk students with wraparound support and extensive mentoring. And 12, interventions for students who are repeat violent offenders and mandated counseling. I also joined the newly formed Youth Development and Safety Task Force that is being facilitated by the City of Kalamazoo and has leaders from various youth organizations in our community, along with Chief Coakley from KDTF. One of our climate and culture coaches, Liz Dodson Walker, has been selected to speak at the American Association of Suicidology National Conference in Chicago in regards to the work our district has done with suicide prevention. This is a great honor and a wonderful way to get recognized and share our best practices with other districts. In addition, we will be hosting KPS educators for a suicide prevention workshop at our brand new SEL Center on January 25th and 26th. This will ensure that every building has a person ready to respond to a child in crisis. It is exciting to see KPS gaining recognition for the work and resources for the mental health of our students. Erin Crosstand from Millwood Middle School and Randy Clearwaters from Winchell Elementary worked with Discover Kalamazoo and the Artists of Color Network on the Kalamazoo Maiden mural that was downtown by the Epic Center on the Kalamazoo Mall. 10 students in grades 4 to 6 participated in this project over the summer. I'll show a minute of the video about to project and encourage you to visit the mural in person to see their creativity about the project and encourage you to see the mural in person.
Art is an integral part of the culture here in Kalamazoo, and placemaking is a part of that. We know that when people love where they live, it also becomes a place that people love to visit. The phrase Kalamazoo Made for You was created by Discover Kalamazoo as a fun, energetic, and welcoming message for both visitors and residents of Kalamazoo. That whatever experience you're looking for, history, entertainment, nature, art, and more, that is here for you in Kalamazoo. We want to celebrate the creativity, craftsmanship, and caring spirit found in our community and show how Kalamazoo is a unique and exciting destination to discover. The Kalamazoo Made for You mural was not only a community placemaking project, but an opportunity for youth to explore and cultivate their artistic talents on a large scale. 10 Kalamazoo public school students in grades 4 through 6 worked on the mural alongside mentors from the Artists of Color Network. Art is
We don't get to celebrate love stories very often at board meetings, but a very special event happened this week. 2 KPS graduates who are now KPS teachers. Because of their love of the district and their students, the proposal took place at Parkwood Upjohn. Kalamazoo Central teacher Javon Carver enlisted his chemistry students in his plans by having them create signs with lyrics from the couple's favorite song, Love Story by Taylor Swift. Mr. Carver also wanted to involve his intended students, who he arranged for an elaborate setup. While 3rd grade teacher Sarah Townsend's students were in art class, Mr. Carver met with them during the last hour of school Tuesday and explained his surprise plan. The students were given a rose or a sign created by the Kalamazoo Central students and asked to line the hallway leading to the art class. One of the students had the important task of going to their classroom to get Miss Townsend and bring her to the art room. Can you imagine trying to keep that secret from your teacher as a 9 or 10-year-old? When Miss Townsend arrived in the hallway, she saw her students lined up, and as they began giving her the roses, she was trying to figure out what was going on. Her first thought was she was getting some type of teaching award. When she walked into the art class, she saw Javon. Of course, the tears immediately began flowing, and Javon gave a moving and heartfelt proposal. I'm happy to report she said yes. Both the Kalamazoo Central and Parkwood Upjohn students were so happy to have played a part in this love story. Townsend and her students, Townsend's let her students take the roses home that day to share with a loved one. We're very happy for Javon and Sarah. They met as students in KPS and now are wonderful and dedicated teachers at KPS. I wish them all the best. I wanted to share this unbelievable story with you about one of our refugee families that was published by BBC News. A 2-month-old baby boy named Sohail went missing on August 19th in the chaos of the US evacuation of Afghanistan. For months, his parents had no idea where he was. As you remember, the Taliban seized control of the country in August, and many Afghans were just desperately trying to flee. Little Sohail was handed to someone over a fence to protect him from the crush as thousands pushed to get into Kabul airport. But once the family got inside, Sohail was nowhere to be found. After a frantic but futile search for the infant, his father and mother, along with their 4 other children, were put on an evacuation flight to the US. For 4 months, they had no idea where their young son was. After reading a Reuters report on the family's search for Sohail, in November, he was traced to a home of a 29-year-old taxi driver. The taxi driver said he found Sohail crying and alone on the ground at the airport. After being unable to locate the family, he decided to take them home to his wife and children and raise them as his own son. Once Sohail's whereabouts were confirmed, the baby's grandfather, who lives in a northeastern province, made a long journey to Kabul to ask for the child to be returned. After 7 weeks of negotiations, the baby was returned to his grandfather last Saturday. The father watched the reunion via video chat and was quoted as saying, "There are celebrations, dance and singing. It was just like a wedding." They are hoping for arrangements will be made soon to get Sohail home, right here in Kalamazoo, where they have settled as one of our newcomer families. We are looking forward to welcoming Sohail as one of our future KPS students in a few years. His 4 siblings are already enrolled with us. That concludes my presentation, President Scholler Barber. I will now hand it over to Mr. English for a bond update.
If I could just interject, and I usually do this, but I missed it this time. Before you do the bond update, Mr. English, could you just go over the purchase orders a little bit? I'm sorry. I think it's really good for the public to understand what the purchase orders are. Would that be too much of an inconvenience?
No, that's fine.
Great.
Let me find them here real quick.
And there are quite a few, and I'd like to tribute or give gratitude to the bond, the people who helped pass the bond. And I know some of these came out by bond. Thank you very much for indulging us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, happy to. So as you said, there's a number of purchase recommendations that were approved this evening. So I'll go through these somewhat quickly, but as always, if there are any questions or comments, feel free to jump in. First one is audio and video enhancement systems for Hillside. This is funded by the 2018 bond. The cost is $243,195.33. This is planned for this summer. The vendor is Moss Telecommunications. We requested proposals from 16 vendors and received 3 quotes. This is within the parameters of the budget for the bond, and this was part of the plan for that bond to continue to refresh our audio and video systems at each of the schools as they need it over the course of time. So
Thank you for including that, because I think it's, especially when you get to the 2022 bond, I think perfect education to have it be known that we stay in the parameters and there's dedicated funds. So I really appreciate you doing it.
you bet, absolutely. The next one is very similar, except it's for Parkwood Uptown Elementary School. This is also funded by the 2018 bond. It's audio and video enhancement systems. Moss Telecommunications was the low bidder with 2 bids received at $155,962.47. The next one after that is 1,350 touch screen Chromebooks at $430 each. Total cost $580,500. The vendor is CDW, which is a large technology vendor located in Chicago and elsewhere, but we work with them out of Chicago. This was off a national bid, I'm sorry, statewide bid, the Ramsey statewide bid. These Chromebooks are planned to be distributed to teachers and identified support staff in the fall of 2022. The funding source for this is ESSER 3 funds. You will recall on December 2nd, last time we were all together, we presented to you the ESSER spending plan, the ESSER 3 spending plan, and this was part of that. And so certainly we appreciate the federal funding and the opportunity to do this. And I think that's an important point that we need to make over and over, because it's easy for all of us to forget that what is supplementing the 2018 bond and the proposed 2022 bond are these ESSER funds. And we're using a lot of these ESSER funds for HVAC improvements and for technology such as Chromebooks, which are both very, very much eligible under the parameters of that grant. Next up, we have 1,000 Lenovo touchscreen Chromebooks at $309 each. This is also from CDW. This is funded by the 2018 bond. The total cost for 1,000 at $309 is $309,000. These Chromebooks are going to be distributed in the fall of 2022 to all 2nd grade students to be used at home. Casey Sledge and her team in the technology department have put together a long-term plan for putting Chromebooks in students' hands. It's not the same from K to 12, nor should it be. We have different plans based on the age of the students and the maturity of the students. And so in this case, with 2nd graders, we're looking at these would be devices that would be used at home. This would be a 1-to-1 arrangement, so 1 device for each student in 2nd grade. And so this is enhancing our ability to have Chromebooks in the hands of students because of the bond funds from 2018. Next up, we have 3,500 touchscreen Chromebooks at $309 each. And you might wonder, why did we separate all these? Because of the different funding sources and the different purposes for these. we just feel like it's better to be transparent and let all of you and let everyone know, this is what we're using these for, this is the plan. And as I said, they've got a plan to continue going forward where we would use devices as long as we can use them. So that's on a probably a 6-year cycle, 4 years in the hands of students, and then a couple of years as loaners and backups, because we have to be prepared for when devices don't work. We have to be prepared when devices get left at home, or left on the bus, or left at some other school after a sporting event, or, you know, there's other things that I could go on and on. But we have devices that end up all over the place, and we got to have a plan for that not getting in the way of student learning.
I want to thank you for those details. I think those details really, really are important with each of them, the ESSER funds as well as the replacement as well as the plan. So this is again part of the transparency of how these funds are used. So thank you very much for your continued education.
You bet. So these 3,500 are going to be distributed in the fall of 2022 to 5th, 6th, and 9th grade students. These devices will be used both at home and at school. Here, that's a little different than 2nd graders because they're older and a little more mature. And so we will have one-to-one Chromebooks. And this is part of our replacement cycle. The total cost on these was $1,081,500. Again, that's funded out of ESSER free funds. Next up, we have 2,275 Hewlett Packard mini PCs at $522 each. We have some equipment that goes with those, mounting brackets, and then also monitors at $128 each. And then the total adds up to $1,446,926.25. This will be paid for out of the 2018 bond. This is purchased for the replacement of all remaining classroom teacher computers and all secondary and elementary computer labs and monitors. So this is part of the 6-year replacement cycle we have in place for these desktop devices. And this was planned for out of the 2018 bond. The low bidder on this was C-High Computer Products, which is a Michigan company. Next up, we have 1,000 Lenovo touchscreen Chromebooks at $309 each. You heard something like this very similar just a second ago, but these are funded out of the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And I want to give Ian Haight and Casey Sledge credit for leaving no stone unturned to look for ways to pay for these devices. It would be easier for them to just come to me and come to the taxpayers and say, we need this out of the 2022 bond. And please, let's just do that. But instead, they're looking to make our dollars go as far as possible. And so they have found this resource, the Emergency Connectivity Fund, as a resource that we can use to pay for these devices. So these devices would be distributed to all 1st grade students to be used at home. And there would be a 1-to-1, 1 device to 1 student ratio for the 1st grade students to use these Chromebooks at home. Again, that's paid for the Emergency Connectivity Fund. So good news there. That's not bond funds. That's not ESSER funds. That's just another resource that we have thanks to the hard work of the staff. Next up, we have remodeling and site work at North Glade Montessori Magnet School. This is planned out of the 2018 bond. So this includes contractors for asphalt paving, interior signage, remodeling of student restrooms not all the restrooms near the gymnasium, installing lockers, replacing the clock system, some lighting replacement in some of the school, and then partial roof replacement. Total cost is $1,207,673. I also want to note, again, they're making dollars go further. We salvaged the generator from the transportation site and are installing it at North Glade as part of this project. So again, if something has useful life to it, we're using it again, and I certainly appreciate that. This is one thing I will call to your attention here is it is a tough time to get contractors. And what you see, and we all have heard this, it is very, very real for us right now. We not that long ago, and during my career, we would go to bid for something in March, and the contractors would show up in April and start working. Now we go to bid in November, we approve it in January, and we have a hard time getting contractors. We had 173 proposals requested. We received 15. It is very difficult to get bidders to participate. The lead times on some of this is long. You've heard all of this in the news. I just want you to know it is not a national problem. It's not just a national problem. It's also a Kalamazoo problem. And it's great that people have jobs and are working. I'm thrilled about that. But it does impact us even at the school district. You'll see a second page there that has all the contractors listed. I won't take the time to read through all of those. You heard the summary total just a second ago. Next up, we've got remodeling and site work at Millwood Elementary School. This is paid for the 2018 bond. The total dollar amount is $340,407. The plan there is to remodel some student toilet rooms in the south building, to replace some window coverings and replace some sidewalks. Again, we solicited bids from 82 different contractors. We received 7. And so there's different bid categories on this as well. You can see that this one was a little under budget, but some of the reason we're under budget on some of these things is because we scale back the scope. If you see under budget, it is not because prices are coming better than we thought. It's because we're managing the budgets to the dollars we have. What that means is we have to scale back some of the scope that we thought we'd be able to do because of the prices being high, because of the strong demand for labor and goods. And then the last one is $35,880 from ESSER 2 funds to pay for children's disposable surgical face masks. You heard Dr. Chowdhury talk earlier about how we provide masks for students and adults who need them. This is 200,000 children's disposable surgical face masks that is going to replenish masks that we've used up this year. KSS Enterprises, a company right here in Kalamazoo, is the low bidder on this, and we work with them extensively and pleased that they are going to be able to provide these masks for us. So there you go. Sorry for the.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I said thank you about 15 times in the last 4 minutes, but I'll say it again, that this is an education about the complexity of our budget and the various efficacy of planning and moving things around. And it was great to hear about the generator. And unless we announce those things, they're not known, but they're so important to have the voters know that we have that kind of fiduciary responsibility, and we are doing things with responsibility accounted for as far as we can. So I apologize for not consent calendar, but I really appreciate that we discussed it. Thank you so much. I have one comment. Okay, sure. Great. Okay, so Trustee Hill, Trustee Harrison.
Just wanted to give a huge thank you to Ms. Sledge, and I didn't catch Ian's name, for leaving no stone unturned in regards to making sure that our students that were deeply affected by the digital divide are able to do what they're supposed to do. So I really wanted to thank you. That is it speaks volumes to you understanding the needs of the children in this country. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. I'll pass that along to them too.
Trustee Hill.
I did a quick math calculation, so don't correct me, Mr. English, but it sounds like we bought 14,000 computers for teachers and students. Is that correct?
I'm not going to correct you.
Okay. Wow. Slightly more than. Backing up what Trustee Harrison said, there's a need for computers, there's a need for everyone to be digital, the way things are, and even some of them have logos, the ones for the teachers, thought that was big. So yes, that's a very wonderful thing. Also, people don't realize how hard it is to keep up with buildings. So, you know, we have 24 school buildings, but then we have buildings like this, and kind of around West Mitch and so on. I'm sure there's 30-ish with 35, yes, with storehouses and bus transport, all that stuff. So we have to keep those buildings in very top shape because we're housing children or our workers. And so that takes time and money, and that's what the bonds are all about. So hats off, once like Trustee Shari said, to the bond committee for coming up with the best way to spend the money that we hope to get to improve and keep up our building. And the last thing is, I perused through who we use for contractors that you published here, and they're all local. So I think that's important to note too, that we go with the local people, and I recognize the names, and they've been supportive of KPS, so thank you them. And who's it, Mr. English and Karen Jackson are the people that run the building, so
That's it. Well, thank you again. And that's the last one for the evening, but I'm so pleased that there were other comments, and that was a brilliant comment by Trustee Harrison about making sure we don't like that digital divide at all. And so I appreciate that presentation. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you. And that leads into what is going to be a short presentation on the bond tonight. You heard me too much last month, so I'm trying to not hear much from me tonight. I really appreciate the comment though from Trustee Hill. I appreciate all the comments, but in particular, just this afternoon, I had the opportunity with Ms. Coleman to walk one of our buildings, and there's a lot of pride at KPS, and there should be, but it is difficult to maintain the number of buildings we have, and we have a lot of needs. And you've heard me say it before, and in this process, it's been great for me being new here in the last 6 months to go through this process. But it's also a little painful to walk through some of our buildings and be like, wow, we haven't addressed this in a number of years, and that's not me blaming anyone. That's not what that's about. It's really difficult to keep up with 35 buildings, and this bond is really important. I just cannot overstate how important this bond is for the future of KPS and for our facilities. And we're not going to address even half of what we had on our list. It's a big dollar amount, but we're not going to address even half of what's on that list. And it's really important we continue down this path. We have a number of older buildings. You heard me say it. We've really got to work on making sure that we continue to help the community understand some of these challenges with older buildings and the significant investment that we need to continue to offer good facilities for all of our students. And so I just say that because this afternoon, and it goes with this presentation, I walked through a building and we want to do better in some areas, but the money we have is meant to educate students. It isn't meant, we just don't have enough money to be building buildings and replacing HVAC systems with the operating budgets we have. Yeah.
we published that, not just the average age.
Yeah, the newest is being built right now, but before that, I think the newest one other than that is 2015, I believe. And then the oldest is, we've got 3 that are 100 years old right now. So we've got 3 that are 100 years old, and we've got newest is 2015, and I'm really thankful we've been able to build some new schools in the last 15 years. But even with that, I would say 15 years. If you got a house that's 15 years old, it needs a few things, and so we're working on that, and that's part of this plan. So the thing I want you to hear loud and clear is this graphic right here. What we're really talking about with the community is investing in our community's future. And what I have found in this community, which I did not know before coming here, is this is a community that is really unique. It's really proud of the community. They're really proud to be here, and I just think it's great. And I think it's also a community that really values youth and values the future. And the future here is a little bit of a play on words. We're talking about the future of our building and facilities and the school district, but we're also talking about the future of this community, which is our students. And so really those two go together, and that's really what we're talking about when we talk about the needs of this bond, is investing in our students, investing in our facilities, both at the same time. So just a quick update this evening on the next slide, that a question that's come up, and I want you to know we're putting together a web page that we'll be releasing soon. We'll announce in this meeting when that's put together and when it's out there. We're putting together a web page, and on the web page we'll put together an FAQ, and that'll be a web page that'll change. If we get more questions, we'll put more questions out on the web page. And one of the questions that I've heard, and I want to make sure I address publicly, is this is a no millage increase, it's no increase in the tax rate, but, where are we at in terms of our taxes? How do we compare? So, and again, we want to be transparent. So I have no problem sharing this in this meeting. I don't have a problem putting this up on the website. Where we are at is, there's a non-homestead millage rate that goes towards our foundation allowance, which is our per pupil operating fund. We really don't talk about that as part of this. That's part of the state formula, and it's part of our operating budget. So we put that on there just to be transparent. You can see we're at 17.6757 mils. Our debt millage is 8.2 mils. We do not have a sinking fund. I would tell you, I sure wish we did, because boy, when some of these repairs come up, and we've had some doozies the last few weeks, it would be great to have a sinking fund where we could pull that money out. But when we don't have a sinking fund, it comes right out of our operating budget. And our facilities team led by Karen Jackson does a great job managing that budget, but they don't have a lot to work with. And so we have no sinking fund, and so that's at 0 mils. You can see that other districts, Parchment has a 2 mil sinking fund, Comstock has a mil sinking fund, Portage is about half a mil, Bell Lake is 0.64 or so. You can see then the far right column is adding those two together, the debt and the sinking fund. How do we compare? And all of these districts have at least some property within Kalamazoo County is really where this list of districts comes from. So it's not just K-RESA districts, but it's really any district that touches this county we've added on this list. And you can see, I think we're right where we want to be at this point at 8.2 mils. We're not the lowest. I wouldn't want to be the lowest. I think a lot of people that live in Kalamazoo wouldn't want to be the lowest. They want good schools. They want good facilities. But we're not the highest either. And you can see that there's about a third of the districts are higher than we are, and then about 2/3 are lower. I think that kind of fits with the makeup of the community and where we want to be. But the one thing I would say is where it doesn't fit is the age of our buildings. If you look at those other schools up there, their buildings aren't as old. Our buildings, where we do have real challenges, is we have older buildings, and we're trying to get this done without having the highest millage rate in the area. And kudos to all of you for getting us where we are. Kudos to the team that passed the 2018 bond, but now it's our time to move forward with 2022 to continue where we've been. So that's, unfortunately, that's about as short as the report gets for me. It's a little longer than I wanted, but that gives you the information on how we compare, and we will put this information out on the website too.
Okay, I think we have a question from Trustee Mira.
Would you mind explaining what a sinking fund is?
Oh, sure. And thank you for asking that, because I'll lose you with things just because I've done this for 20 years. So a sinking fund is the worst name there is, okay? But that's what it's called. A sinking fund, so school districts can go to the voters and ask the voters to approve debt millage, which is so we can issue bonds, pay for construction. You know about that. Another option that we can do as a school district is go to the voters and ask them to pay property taxes based on some millage rate, whatever is decided on the ballot, and put that money into a sinking fund. What the sinking fund, what I think the right name for that is a repair and improvement fund. And it's some of those things are overlap with a bond, but it's really repairs. It's not maintenance. So the law is very clear on that. It's not maintenance, it's repairs. So to give you an example, and it gets this picky a little bit in the law, with a sinking fund, we could totally replace the parking lot out here. But we could not just put a black coat on top of it. Because that black coat is maintenance. Repair is totally kind of replacing it, or replacing a good chunk of it. So we don't have a sinking fund, but a sinking fund allows for repairs. The nice thing about a sinking fund is every dollar of that millage goes towards repairs and improvements. The one downside of bonds is that some of those dollars are going to pay for interest. But the positive of bonds is you get the money up front, so you have a lot more money to work with. The downside of a sinking fund is you're just kind of getting in it as it comes in. And so, you look at a Comstock with a 5 millage, their debt millage rate is 5, and they've got a sinking fund of 1. that's also a tough situation for them to be in, because they don't have as much bond money to work with, so it's a pay-as-you-go thing, which is difficult to get by on. So anyway, in an ideal scenario, if we could get whatever we wanted, to make the district work well, it would be nice to have a sinking fund, but we got it. Debt millage, and the taxpayers have been really great with that, and really supportive, so it works.
I do have one question. Are you concerned at all about having to scale back the scope of the projects that are going to be included in this fund?
Of course. I'm the finance guy, you bet. I think what we need to tell the community is, we're not looking to increase your millage rate. We're not looking to increase your taxes. And that's the focus here. We're gonna do everything we can with the dollars we get to make those go as far as they can. Am I concerned that, we may not be able to do everything that's on that list? I am. That being said, Karen Jackson and I spent many hours. She spent more hours, let's be fair. We spent many hours putting some inflation into this budget because we knew there were challenges, and so we have some of that in there. But as a finance guy, I'm required to say that yes, I'm concerned, but it's my job to do the best we can, get projects in under budget and on time.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you did leave room for inflation.
Yep.
That, and I would also add, labor costs have gone up since the pandemic, and so has costs of supplies. So what we would have anticipated pre-pandemic is not the same anticipation now. So dollars are just not going to stretch as far. Is that an accurate statement, Mr. English?
Absolutely an accurate statement. Keep in mind that this is a 10-year plan that we're talking about. So there's no one that can tell you what prices are going to be in 5 years. The way it's been lately, I'm not sure we can tell you what they're going to be in a year. But no one knows that. But we build in, we did our best to build in so we could meet what we're promising. But you see it every time I come to you with one of these purchase requests. You see down at the bottom. Here's the budget. Here's how much we spent. If it's over, then we know we got to scale back on some other things. And that's work we do every day. That's what we're paid to do. And we'll do our best to deliver everything we can. But when we say on the ballot, when we tell taxpayers that we're going to build a new LSO, we're going to build a new LSO. Okay, there's no doubt of that. Is it going to be 77,000 square feet or 70,000 square feet? I can't tell you that for sure. But I can tell you, we will build an LSO. We will do the HVAC improvements that we're going to do. They may not be everything we dream of, but we'll get it done. Yeah.
Thank you. And there's been a request to do a bio break for 3 minutes. And so, although coffee drinkers in the room or whoever, we will be back at say 8:15.
Yeah.
I will call the meeting back to order. Oops, let me get that. All right, everybody, yeah. All right, let's call the meeting back to order, and we will begin this portion of the meeting now that Mr. English is done, and thank you for that wonderful report. And I think it really exemplifies the complexity of running a system like KPS. And again, with the historic preservation, those buildings are beautiful, but they're costly. And they're very hard to make them cyber ready and. So there are challenges. Thank you so much. So we will go to persons requesting to speak to the board. And this is the beginning of the year. And I'm hoping, yes, it is, that this is classic. We do this every meeting, and it's our policy 1.2, public participation during a meeting of the Board of Trustees. While balancing legitimate privacy interests of students and staff, the Board of Trustees welcomes community input at public meetings of the Board of Trustees. Persons requesting to address the board will be asked to complete a sign-in sheet by the end of the public comment period. The portion of that sign-in sheet requiring completion will include name, school district in which the person resides, and connections or interest in the Kalamazoo Public Schools. The optional portion will be held private and will include mailing address, email address, phone number, topic about which you will be speaking, and if authorized or applicable, the organization they represent. The presiding board officer will invite persons who come to the podium in the order in which the sign-in sheets were completed. If after 30 minutes, everyone who has completed a sign-in sheet has not had the opportunity to address the board, the public comment period will be tabled and resumed before the adjournment of the meeting at the end of the meeting. Speakers have 3 minutes each and must stop speaking promptly when signaled. And we have a timer. We're working on it. Okay. We may have a timer. Okay. Speakers may not address a confidential student or personal matters, but may submit such concerns to the board in writing. Speakers are encouraged to provide the board with a written copy of their comments or other appropriate supporting documentation, which will be copied and distributed as needed to appropriate staff or personnel. The public is required to exercise common courtesy during the meeting and must follow rule of order, just like we do in our classrooms. We're always role modeling. The decorum we expect in our classrooms, we expect here. The presiding officer may terminate public comments that are profane, vulgar, not civil, or defamatory, especially if these comments result in a disturbance of or breach of the peace. Personal attacks against any employee or board member that are totally unrelated to his or her duties are prohibited. If a person engages in disruptive conduct or is out of order, the board presiding officer will strike his or her gavel and warn the person to discontinue their behavior. Further disruptions will result in the person being asked to leave. Refusal to leave will result in being escorted out of the building. Okay, so if I've got this right, Myron Johnson is our first speaker. Great, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Marlon Johnson. I got 3 kids, I go to Kalamazoo Central. And, I'm here to talk about the security issues that goes on up there, you know, it's about lights and everything. And, my daughter was involved in an altercation January 11th. And, diagnosed with a concussion. But I say that to say this, the guy that broke the fight up wasn't security. I think everybody needs to be trained properly if we're gonna be breaking up fights the proper way. So with that being said, she was diagnosed with a concussion, and I don't think he did it on purpose. It's just the training. You know, everybody, because they told me that anybody can break up a fight that's there when it happens. I just think that everybody should be trained the proper way to break up a fight. The first altercation she got into, the guy grabbed her, picked her up and just walked her away. The second guy, he picks her up and slams her on her head, which is a personal foul in football, and get ejected off the game for that. So we gotta just do better. I mean, if they need more security, or everybody just needs to be trained better. But there's a lot going on up there, so. Yeah. All that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The next person to speak is Barbara Wilson.
She's decided not to speak.
I'm sorry?
She has decided not to speak.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. The next person is someone related to Barbara Wilson, David Wilson.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank you for being here tonight. At the peak of Delta in this country, we had 1 in 36 Americans with COVID. On 1/3, we had 1 in 25. Right, the day we went back to school, 1 in 25 Americans. As of today, we're at 1 in 16. 21 million Americans currently have COVID. APS didn't cause the outbreak. The KBS is living through that outbreak. We have a higher hospitalization today than since the fall of 2020. We're past Delta. Delta hurt people. This is hurting more. Air quality can't wait. We cannot wait on this. The Kalamazoo County Health Department gives you a minimum set of guidelines, not a max. You have to be doing more. Beyond isolation and quarantine guidance given by the health department and CDC, we're using pre-Omicron defenses to fight Omicron. We need more. I've asked why we can't put these in the school. I've gotten a lot of answers. It seems to be related to insurance. It's not power, because you can run Chromebooks. It's not tripping, because you can plug them in. I need you, the board, to empower our superintendent to do this. There was no there was no precedent for shutting the schools down and going remote, but we did it. We need our air quality now. This layers on top of having. We have parents willing to make this now. We've had, as of tonight, 200 cases in 7 days of school. You didn't cause this, but I need your help in fixing it. This is a fan. I did not change any wires. I bought it off the shelf. This is plugged in the classrooms all over. It is a fan with tape. This will change the air in the room multiple times an hour. We all got some pretty disturbing news tonight. Having a hard time keeping it together, thinking about that. We cannot wait. We cannot wait on this. We've lost one of our own. There was a promise lost. We need you to help get beyond this problem. Please. Help is great, but we need more. We need it today. I can do this. I made a couple this week for people who needed them. I got someone who wants to be here tonight, but can't because their kid got COVID, came home, got them COVID sick. We know that it came from school. We say there's no community transmission in school. How do we know? What's our metric? What's our measure? Kids are getting sick within a week of each other. That's our incubation period. How do we know?
I'm sorry, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. It's Dr. Wilson. Thank you.
Dr. Wilson, my apologies. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shari Weber is the next speaker.
Hello, I'm Shari Weber. I have 2 daughters at Kalamazoo Central, and you've got my address. I was going to talk about 3 different things, but there's not time for all of that. I recognize that you, the board, have come back to yet another merciless wave of chaos and challenges. I do not envy you, and I am grateful for each and every one of you for you keeping showing up. You keep doing that. Yet I am still asking you for more empathy, more transparency, more communication, and better leadership. More daring leadership, because it is in precisely these chaotic, challenging times that we need our leaders to be more agile, more honest, and they have to be able to lead and to learn. As parents, we have trusted you to be at the leading edge of caring for and protecting for everyone in our schools. Through the first 1.5 years of the pandemic, you did just that. But circumstances are changing and evolving faster than any of us can keep up. And you are distancing yourselves. You are dragging your feet. You're delaying taking action right now when we need it the most. You're not the only elected officials I've been contacting, but our problem seems to be that everyone thinks it's someone else's job and somebody is going to give you direction. And it's not your own job to take action. So we wait and look around. We look at the county health department. We look at the state government, anywhere but looking in the mirror to ask, what can we do in the next few weeks? Because let's be clear, that is the critical window to protect our children in the district right now. And how can we connect with families and staff to work together instead of acting like things are the same that they were in the 1st of January, the same that they were at the beginning of the year. I understand that you may have critics who wish to challenge you and even cause you harm, and that is horrible. I would not wish that on any of you. I'm sorry that that is happening to you. I am not one of those critics. I never have been. And neither are at least 98% of the other parents who write to you asking for help, begging for partnership and guidance. You don't have to feel like you're in this alone. We're all tired of feeling like we're in this alone. But the clock is ticking and the case counts are horrendous. When we made the decision to send our kids in person or virtual, we had 22 cases a week in September and October. Latest update to the dashboard is 50 cases in a day. We are not in the same situation. School has changed. We cannot pretend it hasn't. I have more to say than that. I'm asking you to go back to virtual for at least 3 to 4 weeks to get us through this. And in the last 20 seconds, I want to speak the Bradford family's name into this room because it should have been spoken before. We lost a student this week and no one said one word about it. What is wrong with you? You can spend the next 10 seconds thinking about that. That's my time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Scott Hensinger.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Hensinger. I live at 1552 Academy Street, Kalamazoo. Been a teacher, a coach, and an administrator for 26.5 years in Kalamazoo. I'm the son of a president of a board of education. I so appreciate all of you and the constant work you do. The district, this district has been my life's work and my wife's life's work, and I have 3 children in the district as well. I teach at Phoenix High School. I used to teach at Hillside, and I was an administrator in this building. I have some concerns about the COVID situation. The latest positivity rate in Kalamazoo is 34%, and that's a kind of a catastrophic number we haven't seen. It's what we would call kind of off the charts. We used to get really, really concerned in Michigan when we hit 10% or 15%. That was like a red alert, or 34%. These are kind of unprecedented waters. Omicron is, either the most or tied for the most contagious virus probably in the history of humanity that we've ever recorded. It's incredibly contagious. And I think many teachers have some pretty big concerns about the dashboard that the district uses. It kind of doesn't match up with what we're seeing on the ground in terms of numbers that we know about from students and parents telling us how many children have COVID or have contacted it. We just have some pretty big concerns about the accuracy of that dashboard. I'd say huge concerns. I'd say that we're probably thinking it's really vastly undercounting what's really happening. And that's not through the fault of anybody or that it's something nefarious at all. It's just really tough to keep up with this. It's a really tough virus to trace. And especially when you have open cafeterias with people with their masks off eating, it's a really tough thing. So we have some serious concerns about the dashboard. We see it all. We see every time a kid dips their mask below their nose in the building. We see every time a kid runs up and hugs somebody with their mask off, or, we kind of see it all. And then we hear 2 days later who in that group had COVID. And so we kind of have a very direct view of what's going on. I need to really hurry. 3 minutes is really fast. So first, concerns about the dashboard and whether our data is accurate. Second, the positivity rate is so high, and what all the experts will tell you is that means we're undercounting as a society, our numbers. Third, I think we need a 2-week break to do a couple things. One, to get a different kind of mask. All of the experts are saying that cloth masks and surgical masks are no longer accurate, are no longer up to task for dealing with this virus. They're all saying we need to switch to KN94 or N94 masks. This is just universally being said by disease experts in our country. We need a couple weeks to do that as a district, to buy those new masks. We need a couple weeks to let the peak of this district go over, because it's probably going to crash as fast as it went up. So it spiked really fast and it's going to go down really fast. If we can have a couple weeks of virtual, not 50 weeks like before, 2 weeks to purchase new masks that are KN94 and N94, not surgical, because surgical has been said by the experts to be completely inadequate to this disease. That's okay. Said most of what I want to say. Thank you so much for all your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to, after the person's requesting to address the board, we go to other business. And as it was requested at the beginning of the meeting, we amended the agenda to discuss conducting a school climate survey. And if Trustee Harrison would like to begin.
Thank you so much. I acknowledge that additional actions must be taken to prevent violence in our schools and community. I am looking to do a deeper dive into what will be necessary to improve school safety and access to mental health supports for the children and youth in this community. I'm looking to reflect on the best practices in school safety and climate, student health, student mental health and well-being, instructional leadership, teaching and learning. I'm seeking to understand the partnerships that are currently in place, but more importantly, that have been requested by the students of this district to create and sustain generally safe and supported schools that are in safe and supported neighborhoods that are in safe and supported communities. I'm interested in learning more about the efforts we currently have in place to improve school climate and what efforts we currently have in place to engage families and community providers to contribute as meaningful partners. I'm interested in hearing from the students, families, and staff of this district to find out not only what they need, but what they need to make what we have in place work. I understand the importance of policies and practices that make our communities safer. And as a policy leader, I'm charged with ensuring that all students in my community have access to safe and supported schools. This includes advocating endlessly for increased access to mental health services, improved interagency collaboration, and reduced exposure of our children to community violence. As chair of the policy committee, I've always and will continue to advocate for state and federal level support in ensuring adequate, equitable, and sustainable funding dedicated to school safety. I desire for this district to be able to anticipate on the availability of future funding to collaborate with our school leaders to effectively plan for and implement meaningful changes that will result in positive, sustainable outcomes for our students. I realize that staffing challenges may not allow for the delivery of full range services for our students, but I also believe in the power of partnerships and appreciate the potential of success with school community partnerships and encourage the development of a partnership pool with our local higher learning institutions to help find innovative ways to approach this challenge. I have a feeling that we've already graduated our next school counselors, school social workers, and school nurses, and that these students are soon to be graduating from their respective programs at Kalamazoo College, Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and Western Michigan University, and that they are eagerly awaiting a request to return their talents to their communities. While it's honorable that our schools are the ideal hub for service delivery of the supportive services that our students need, it's disrespectful that we have not been given the means to adequately staff our schools and to serve our students. We have the potential to provide our community with services in the school setting, all while connecting students and families to appropriate services in their communities. We must enhance the effectiveness in the delivery of these vital services. I stand firm in my belief that school safety and positive school climate is a comprehensive and collaborative effort that requires the dedication and commitment not just the district, but by families and community members as well. Utilizing SROs or other security personnel primarily as a substitute to improve student behavior or improve the overall school climate is inappropriate, irresponsible, and does not contribute to school safety or students' perceptions of being safe and can have long-term life-altering effects. I am confident that as we realize, this board sets the tone for our expectations on school environment where our teachers thrive, our support staff feel supported, and our students achieve their greatest potential in a safe and nurturing school environment. It is our responsibility to set the expectations for our students as high as they can personally reach and give our students the standards for academic, social, emotional, and physical development of themselves. I realize that the process to improve our schools will not be immediate and will require consistent and effective approaches to prevent violence and to promote learning, and that we must allow sufficient time to implement these approaches. That's not my position. My position is that there is no other time but now to do this work in a way that is measurable, meaningful, and serves the needs of the target audience, in this case, the students of the district. We have a responsibility to ensure that student experiences throughout their school careers of our students contribute to their positive mental health. We have a responsibility to provide safe and successful learning environments. We must be a district that provides a culture of safe and successful schools. We must find ways to address staff shortages and improve staffing ratios. I encourage partnerships with community providers that are providing the services that our students say that they need. I want to say that one more time. I encourage partnerships with community providers that are providing the services that our students say that they need. It is my duty to help mobilize this community, not only around the mission and shared values of this board, but also around the school improvement goals that our schools need. I seek to remind this community of the core values of student support, and I also seek to set the tone of high academic expectations. As a trustee with this Board of Education, I took an oath to do my duty to educate and prepare all children and youth in this community to achieve their highest potential and contribute their talents to society in a positive and productive manner. I'm requesting any school data that has been collected that will help me further understand the most urgent area of needs regarding safety and school climate. So what does this mean? This means that my mission is to create and improve conditions for the students' educational experience. This means that my mission is to create a climate where students feel supported, safe, and challenged. This means that it is my mission to create a culture of excellence in this district, a culture of excellence in our school buildings, a culture of excellence in classrooms, a culture of excellence within our students, and a culture of excellence within this community. I've done quite a deal of research to understand the importance of why we must measure our school climate. I've spent a great deal of time exploring not only the National Center on Safe and Supportive Learning Environments, but also understanding the National School Climate Center's definition of school climate. According to the NSCC, school climate is the quality and character of school life. School climate measurement is the first step towards school improvement. Measuring school climate is essential to the work that we do as a board. It is imperative that we have a measurable way to understand how our students, families, teachers, and other school staff experience the school and school-related activities. The way that our students, families, and teachers experience school affects student attendance, learning, and achievement. School climate describes school conditions that influence student learning. School climate measurements involve the comprehensive measurement of student engagement, school safety, and the learning environment. The measurement of school climate will provide us with the necessary data to identify school needs, set goals, and track progress toward improvement. Research has shown that a sustainable, positive school climate is tied to student success. Students who learn in positive learning environments are more likely to improve academically, participate more fully in the classroom, and develop skills that will help them be successful in school and in life. A positive school climate fosters youth development and learning necessary for them to become positive, productive, contributing members in a democratic society. A negative school climate is linked to lower student achievement and graduation rates, and it creates opportunities for violence, bullying, and even suicide. We as the board have the responsibility to create the norms, values, and expectations that will support our students feeling socially, emotionally, and physically safe. If we are serious about our students being engaged and encouraged, we must create the foundation in which students, families, and educators work together to develop and contribute to a shared school vision. School climate measurement is used to set in motion a school community-wide process of understanding specific strengths and needs and to further improvement efforts. Our students, teachers, and families deserve to learn in orderly school environments. Our students deserve to graduate after being held to the highest personal academic expectations imaginable, but more importantly, our families deserve the opportunity to be involved and engaged in the collaboration between community and their schools in doing what is in the best interest of their children. We will be able to use the results of this survey not only to set the vision and goals for the district, but we will also be able to identify whether our vision, goals, and strategic plan requires adjustment. There is also a way to do a community climate survey, and I'm encouraging the city to check the pulse of the residents in the same manner. The school-wide constructs that we can measure include school climate, school safety, student engagement, school rigorous expectations, school teacher-student relationships, and student discipline. A school climate survey will allow us to make sure that we are offering our students a safe and respectable climate, high academic expectations, student support, student engagement, and that we're addressing bullying. There's also a way to do a staff survey, which I'm requesting to be completed as well. The Michigan Association of School Boards has a staff survey. The constructs that can be measured are school leadership and involvement, staff attitudes, student involvement, school safety, and parent and community involvement. There's a school climate policy and improvement practices. And that's where I believe that this work should be done. So if we are not currently using a school climate measuring tool, I move to make a motion that we not only have a school climate survey done, that we have this done before the end of this trimester, and that the board use this information to carefully review our current board goals and to guide the work of our strategic plan.
Thank you. So this is for discussion. So Did you make a motion?
I would like to make a motion, but
Okay, so, let's make the motion and then let's discuss.
so I make a motion to have a school climate survey done for staff, students, and families, and that this before the end of this trimester, and the board use this information to carefully review our current goals and to guide the work of our strategic plan.
Okay, do I have a second for the motion?
I will second.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Okay, now it's time for discussion. Do I see any hands for discussion? Trustee Hill. Are you on? Oh. March.
All right. I would like to know, like, specific question in the survey. And like, it's, so trustee Harrison, you got these from MAS.
What the process would be is that we would send it to the policy committee. There's a plethora of surveys that are used, that have been used nationwide. Most of them are free. And then my thought is that the policy committee would do the things that needed to be done, and then we would have a board advance to figure out exactly what needs to happen from that.
I would just like to interject that in our lane, as a board, your ideas are well sounded and your logic is spot on. But as a board, I don't know that we have the.
This is our scope as the board. This is our realm of.
It is our realm, it's the implementation.
No, I'm not asking for us to implement. I'm looking for us to guide, and then our superintendent will implement it.
I would suggest that before we go any farther, that we discuss it thoroughly as to what we would like to do and what will be on it and in policy committee. And make sure that Dr. Redshire and her staff are working with us so that it can be implemented, it can be implemented effectively. So I would.
This is an absolute collaborative effort. This is just what we can do to set the tone for what we want her to do.
That's exactly right. So I would say in formulating this, I think it would be a little premature to vote on something yet before it gets to a discussion situation and comes back that it can be the agenda of the next policy.
No, ma'am, it's an action item. And so my thought is, because it's an action item, it can go to the policy committee. We have a policy committee that's coming up. We can do the work in that policy committee and have a report back to the board before the next board.
So I would like to amend your motion if I could. And what that would be is to send it to policy as an action item at their February meeting, and then
Our
have
January.
on January meeting, thank you, our January meeting, and working with the superintendent, and then come back for a report at this meeting, at the board meeting.
A report on the motion?
What the policy committee recommends we do with the survey or with the action item or the work that needs to be done.
Can I ask for some clarification?
Sure.
So we already implement climate and culture surveys for both our students and our faculty and staff. Is this motion to discontinue the use of those
No, ma'am, it's
surveys?
actually to increase it to families as well.
Okay. So to add on another survey for families, but not to discontinue.
I wasn't aware that we had student surveys. I'd be interested in seeing some of the data from the student staff surveys.
I know that we did one 6 or 7 years ago, and then it sounds like we're doing them. So this is would be another thing. Well, I think we need to do a little bit of work on this before we make any work in policy, and it's your committee. And this is definitely something that you are very dedicated to, that would be that you and the superintendent will be working this through.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think if I get parliamentary right, there's a motion on the floor. So we I need that motion taken out, and then I'll make a new motion to do what we've been discussing.
I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you very much. Okay, so, now we have a motion in a second. And I don't know that necessarily, the best I can do that would be parliamentary correct is we vote that motion down. We say no to that motion, and then we'll come back with the other motion, all right?
I'll come back with that motion after the policy committee meets,
Okay,
and we decide what is the best course of action for them.
thank you. Okay, so the motion on the floor, does everyone understand? This is going to be the policy committee is going to work with it. So this present motion will be tabled or voted down.
Table.
Okay, we'll table it, and then we will come back. It will be on the agenda for after the next policy committee. It'll
be on the agenda for the 27th of January.
So is everyone comfortable with that? Okay, great. So I don't know that we need a vote. I would be more comfortable if we voted this motion down. And then we- Okay, so we're still in discussion.
I'm sorry, my understanding of, bringing something to the policy committee meeting is that we need to make a motion and vote in order for that item to be brought in front of the policy committee, so I'd like to be very specific about what we are discussing.
Yeah, that was the reason that I put the motion in there so that it could go to the policy.
Right. So first of all, let's deal with this motion, this motion, and then we'll go to a second. All right. So, okay, so I need, let's just, all those in favor of tabling or not voting on this motion, say aye.
No, we need the motion to take it to policy. That's why I made the motion.
We have to get rid of the first one on the table first, and then we'll make the new one. Unless you want to amend the motion yourself.
Okay. So I'll amend my motion so that I can put it in policy.
Let's get rid of the first one and let's just do it.
We have a point of order from our secretary.
Motion and second, we will vote to amend. It needs to be a roll call vote.
I knew that. I knew it needed.
Then you'll vote on the amendment.
Right. Okay, so we're tabling that motion and we're going to, I need a motion to amend this motion. Okay, all right.
Amend my current motion.
All right. No, that's not what we need to.
You need a roll call vote on the motion to amend.
That's right.
And the amended motion is presented, and then there's discussion.
And then another roll call, that's what I got. Okay, so, but I've got one sitting out there that I have to get rid of there.
Oh, no, you don't.
Motion and second it. Did make a motion. Trustee Harrison made a motion and Ms. Moore seconded it.
President Schuller, if I may, we're taking the motion as it was stated, and we need to do a roll call vote to allow for the amendment to then take place.
All right there, so it's clear. Okay, so I'm taking roll call now to amend the vote.
Right.
Okay, so trustee Mayor.
Yes.
Trustee Bishop.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Okay, trustee Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Hill.
Yes.
And I vote yes, and thanks for the teamwork. Okay, now we're all functioning now. Now, and to the amendment.
I make a motion that we have the policy committee take a look at doing a school's climate survey that will be done for staff, students, and families. And that this survey be done before the end of the semester, and that the board use this information to carefully review our current board goals and to guide the work of our strategic plan.
Okay, do I have a second?
I would second that with the specificity added that we bring this to our January policy committee meeting.
Okay, so if we've got a second, and you did mention that we need January. Okay, board, yes, now we are having board discussion. Is there any discussion? What's made up?
One question that I have is, Dr. Wright Chaudhry had mentioned the survey of, not family, staff and students is being implemented. So I guess one question I would have is, are we, going ahead of like a schedule if when does she usually implement this culture and climate survey? So if we were to say in the amendment that it has to be done before the end of this trimester, is it something that's usually done in a different trimester? Or we like messing up the schedule? Is that okay that schedule's changing that?
Get the opinion of people.
Yes, so I think my understanding was trustee Harrison was talking about a family survey. Since the student and staff survey is already being implemented, the family survey is not. So that can definitely be something that can be, once we identify what that survey would look like, that can be implemented before March or by the end of the trimester.
Okay, is anyone else discussion? Trustee Jackson?
Yeah, I guess I'm just hesitant to place a timeline on it in a motion that's gonna go to the policy committee. It feels like it's trapping the policy committee in already making a decision for it. If we move this to policy, it's moved the policy to more fully develop an understanding of what's needed. I don't even know that you could physically do a survey of any meaningfulness in a short period of time. It just may not be doable. I mean, if you're trying to get pertinent, relevant data, and I'm not arguing for the need of the survey, I'm just saying that, I think we need to look at how to do this right, and then there are cost factors that have to be factored into that too. So my difficulty with the motion as it is currently stated is that we are basically instructing the policy committee to come back with us with the exact same thing that was just worded into it. And I don't know that we can meet that timeline in a way that will create an effective survey.
Okay, anyone here that has a trustee?
That was my initial concern too. I'm wrapped up in the college of my life, so I forgot. what the timeline was. So I was concerned that it isn't enough time. And if the policy committee is going to dissect what community questions would be, I would like them to be relevant questions that are going to guide. So I don't know how much time to figure out, because we want to get the answers we need, craft direction we need to go in. I guess that's all I'm saying.
All right, so your concern is with the timeline. Okay.
I think that the reason that there needs to be a timeline so that we can get this information so that we can do the work that we need to do over the summer is the reason for the urgency of the timeline is the first thing. But I've watched this district do surveys without any hesitation in regards to virtual learning. I've watched us do surveys on several different occasions. So I'm not concerned about the timeline of the survey at all, because I've watched us do it successfully before.
I would agree. I think we have done them. I don't know what the timeline is or how early the questions were put together, but my concern would be also with the timeline. Is there any?
May I? I
Sure.
think that, many of some of the surveys that trustee Harrison was referring to in her, bringing this up, these surveys are by and large already created and tested and in place elsewhere. This is not, we are not inventing a brand new from scratch survey or KPI. That's not something that's being suggested. And again, like she mentioned, we have very short order come up with surveys and surveyed our entire, our parents as well as our students. So I think that we definitely need information at the policy committee meeting about what survey we are currently and what those questions are, who is surveyed, how often, how are they surveyed. But I don't think we ask that I don't think that the turnaround time is unreasonable for conducting a thorough survey.
Okay, any other comments? Trustee Grayson, do you have something?
That may absolutely be true. But it's at the policy committee that discussion is made and discovered. And so for us to dictate the outcome, or dictate is probably too strong of a word, but for us to suggest the outcome before we have that discussion and do that discovery is my challenge. We may get into policy committee, and you're absolutely right. There could well be a canned, appropriate, wonderful survey that exists that we can just push a button and implement. But I think sitting here right now, I don't know that we know that. At least I don't know that. I don't know that comfortably enough to establish a timeline yet. You know, and I want to vote yes on this. Let's push this forward, but if, you know, if you're gonna, you know,
I would
tracking
agree.
it to a deadline, then I might push back.
I would agree. I would like to see the word of the timeline of the recommendation from the policy committee to come up with the timeline as opposed to doing it the other way where we send the timeline to them. The policy committee would have the autonomy and the authority working with the superintendent to come up with the timeline. Trustee Burke.
I just think that the urgency again comes with making sure that we have this data before the end of the school year to make sure that we're able to do the work of our strategic plan. And to not have a timeline does not allow this board to effectively do the work of making sure that we are in accordance to our shared visions, goals, and strategic plan. So I understand Trustee Grayshak's hesitation, and it's not a timeline in regards to putting us in a lockstep. It's more to make sure that we have the information that we need so that this board can do the work that we are charged to do.
I agree that it is definitely something that should be done. I don't know about the end of the trimester, but it should be done so that the results can be given to us to do it in a timely fashion. Is there any other comments?
Yes, I want to make sure that I have clarity on sort of both sides of this coin here. So, Trustee Grayshak, are you suggesting that you want the committee to come together and come up with the plan and then bring that plan back to the board without the restraints of a timeline? Without time, you know, without.
I actually kind of like where Patty was going with this. I would prefer to set the, like we need the information before we move into strategy. I would postpone strategy by 4 weeks if that's what it took, right? I mean, if that were pertinent information that we felt like we needed to have before we can move forward, then, you know, I mean, that's not a fixed in concrete date. I think the most important thing is my experience with surveys is it's in the construction of it and it's in the implementation of it, and then you gotta have time to analyze it. And if you try to put these things on a fast track, you could just end up short circuiting your own information. And I just, you know, I appreciate Trustee Harrison's desire to push this forward and put a fire underneath this thing. But you also want to do it right.
I think the only.
And this is a different type of survey than surveying people on, you know, A or B, right? This is a pretty, you know, if I'm understanding you right, this is a survey that's going to require, you know, some amount of time.
But I also want to state that these are surveys that are already being done. So it's not as if we're inventing a new survey. We're not doing any of that. We're taking what we've already have done and making sure that what we are doing is what we need.
Right. So my question is, when those surveys were done, how long do they take to do? What was the timeline?
I guess it's one of those surveys.
Well, I mean, I'm understanding that they're.
I'm saying in regards to a school climate survey. We've done we've done virtual learning surveys. We've done all types of other surveys. So I don't know, and that's not even my role. That's not even what I'm looking to get into. What I'm looking to get into is to make sure that the policy committee is able to, at our next meeting, discuss having a school climate survey, that we put a request that the survey is done before the end of the trimester, which is in March, and that the board be able to use that information to guide the work of our strategic plan.
Trustee, Superintendent Right.
So there is a difference between administering a survey and having the survey results analyzed. So even if we use an already existing tool of a survey that exists out there for family surveys, we can definitely implement that, as in send it out to families before the March deadline. But the analysis of the survey is still done by our data team, who also has multiple other projects that they're working on, and this is not something on their radar currently. So all of those things would need to be factored into place, that scrubbing of the data, removing redundant data entries, matching student ID numbers, actually grouping the information, making meaning of the information, all of those are items that take a long period of time. So I don't want to sit here and make a determination for people who will be doing that work, who are not even in this room, with the understanding that this is something additional that will be added to their already full plate. I'm definitely very interested in doing the survey, but I don't want to commit the team to a very stringent timeline without their input.
Trustee Harrison.
And I totally understand and support that. I just think that because of the experiences that our students are having in our schools, that's where this urgency is coming from. The urgency is coming from the needs of my community and making sure that I am doing what I'm charged to do. So I understand not wanting to overwork anyone. I understand all the things that are going along with that. But what I'm saying is that I can't do my work without that information.
If I may, Chair,
Yes.
So I want to make sure that it is understood that the urgency is felt by everyone. Everyone is concerned, and it is not a matter of overworking anyone. The matter is of accuracy. And when a project such as this is rushed, we compromise accuracy. So I want to make sure that we have comprehensive and accurate information that is actionable versus not having the information in the way that we need to make decisions. So again, it's possible that it could be done. We can definitely administer the survey by that deadline. Whether or not the analysis will be complete in that is something that I would need to take back to the data and research.
And I'm not interested as much in the analysis. I'm not as, there's not as much urgency on the analysis as much as there's an urgency on the need. So I'm more interested in the need, and I'm more interested in making sure that it gets done. I will compromise on the analysis because I understand the work that's done in that. But the urgency is that I can't do the work that I need to do in regards to making sure that we are in alignment with our strategic plan without making sure that the climate that the students are learning in is conducive to what it is that they're trying to do.
Okay, so to clarify, you are saying that you just want the survey administered by the end of the quarter?
I want the survey administered before the end of the trimester.
I mean, the trimester, yes.
Yes.
So, again, and I guess to clarification, to dictate to the policy committee or not dictate to, two things come to my mind. One is that this certainly is good and needed and very, there is urgency to this work. I totally agree with that. I think that we've always been very careful with the surveys we've given. And when they say that we're going to get a survey from other places or whatever, we want to make sure that the policy committee looks over the surveys, that they are pertinent to and germane to KPF, and that there has been an analysis over the questions. We have before had discussions about surveys that are not necessarily measuring exactly what we want. So I would like to give the policy committee a little time to look over the surveys with the superintendent and the team to make sure that those surveys are measuring or asking the questions that will give us the data or will give us the direction that will be with our strategic plan. So again, I think that if we go, that there's some steps to this, and so that timeline is just to be, if you feel that we can, I guess I would feel much more comfortable with the policy committee discussing these things and coming back with better recommendations and with big research and based on in accordance with the superintendent and the team. So that's where I'm at. Any other questions or any other discussions? Trustee Moore?
That as a member of the policy committee meeting, I am more than happy to take on homework, and in advance of our meeting, Trustee Harrison can send us those survey questions. We are capable of reading those before we meet as a policy committee. We can come prepared already. Our superintendent can come and present us with the surveys that are ongoing, and we can compare those at the policy committee meeting. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity for us to do that research ahead of the meeting, so that at the meeting, we're prepared to say, we would like to move forward and have a survey and, done before the end of the trimester. Right? That was my impression from the beginning, was that the survey would be done, not that the data would be analyzed before the end of the trimester, but that was
Sure, so that would give about 8 weeks to look over the surveys, and compile the surveys, and an analysis of the accuracy of the questions to the results or to the questions that you have. So I just want to make sure that we got the steps in line as well as the superintendent.
We want to see this. I want to see this.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as the motion stands,
We should.
could you read them all together, please? We have a lengthy discussion.
Motion is that we have a policy looking to do a school climate survey for staff, students, and parents, and that the survey be done before the end of the semester.
So, are we comfortable with the motion? All right, not, the survey to be done, not to be analyzed or whatever, it's just to be done. All right? Are we clear? All right? Okay, is there any more discussion from the superintendent or the board members? Seeing no hands, I'm going to take a roll call vote. Okay. Trustee Mayor.
Yes.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Hurd.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Hill.
Yes.
Trustee Shalabah says yes. So we have given the task to the policy committee at their next meeting to work on this. And I'm pleased that we didn't say you must come back at the very next meeting. So if you take more time, you've got the time to let us know how this is going. So your accuracy and as we've always done with surveys, we've taken a lot of time, or Dr. Rajajuri has taken it. We've never done this before as a board. But Dr. Rajajuri has taken time and expertise to make sure that the questions reflect what we're looking for. So, thank you. Is there any more? All right, now we're going to board comments. All right, board comments are, we'll start at, let's start with either end. Ms. Majyck or Mr. Moore, would you like to go? Trustee Majyck or Trustee Moore?
Excuses.
Jump in.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry to interrupt, I know it's very rude. I fill out a form to make a comment. It was my fault, I didn't put my name at the top. And I hate to interrupt, but it's really important that I be able to share what happened.
I did, you did, and we did have a form with no name. I
That was
understand
me.
that. I would say that what we would normally do is the comments will come at the end of the meeting. Is that everyone comfortable with my report? After the comments, thank you very much. Okay, and thanks for identifying that. Otherwise, I would have not approved. There was no name on it. Thank you very much. Okay, point taken. Now we're going to trustee comments, all right? Comfortable? Okay, thank you. Trustee Moore.
Yes. Oh, boy.
Want to be first.
I want to thank Trustee Harrison for making the motion that she did, and that's really something that I feel like many years ago, there were folks in the community who were advocating for a very similar survey situation be done. I'm really happy to see that like come to fruition like very soon. I do want to talk about air quality. I have heard reasons that we should implement, or we should be allowing the Corsi boxes. I've heard very valid reasons as to why that is not something that the district is able to do. Allow these homemade, devices to be put in there, and I understand that. But I feel like we are like stuck there instead of coming to a reasonable solution. I have heard, okay, if we have these homemade devices, we don't know what's in them. We don't know, say, how the filters have been stored. If they might have mold on them, if there might be some sort of contamination. We don't know, how safety materials used are, right? I feel like there's some some way that we can get around that issue. And I wonder if one of those might be having workshops in schools, having teachers and students together building these boxes out of materials that are purchased, sealed. I mean, you buy the filters. We know where those are coming from. We know that those aren't dangerous when you buy them off the shelf at Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever the fans too. So we are using new materials made by reputable manufacturers, and we can use that as a project for students, staff to undertake within the school building. We have control over it. I think that might be a way around this, insurance/legal issue and hang up that we have over, I would really like to see these in here. They're effective, and it is a measure that we can